I see it. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Welcome to the Bourbon Talk Show, the ABV Network's original YouTube series where we interview some of the most interesting people from the world of bourbon. Today on the show, we'll be talking to Randy Prasse of the Kentucky Bourbon Festival and Fred Mozenter of Buffalo Trace. My name is McNew. Please join me in welcoming my co-host for the evening, Steve Akeley.
Hey, McNew, what's up?
Hey,
hello. Season 2. We're back for season 2 here.
Excited.
Very excited about that. So yeah, we had a great run, 10 great shows for season 1. Now the next 10 weeks we'll be here on Thursday nights recording these. The episodes then drop Fridays on YouTube. So should be a fun second season. And we've got great guests lined out throughout the course of the season. It's going to be a lot of fun. So I'm really looking forward to it. How about you, McNew?
I'm super excited. I missed it over the summer, honestly.
Yeah, this is fun to do. And we got a couple great guests. So Randy's going to be telling us about the Kentucky Bourbon Festival and all that's going on with that. I think there's a lot of demand for that. That thing sold out like that. So it tells you bourbon fans are very excited about being able to get back and do live events. And, we certainly missed getting together. So that's fun. Can't wait to hear more about that. And then we got our buddy Fred Mozenter, comes on a lot of these events, is with us on these. And he's going to be talking about his career at Buffalo Trace, his career in Pennsylvania. And of course, this pick that I've got just a little bit left of here that he did on behalf of Buffalo Trace for the gift shop. But before we get to that, McNew, we like to talk about what's going on in the world of bourbon and whiskey and all that kind of good stuff. And I don't know if you caught this one, but I was excited about it. The American Craft Distilling Institute announced that its annual conference in 2022 is going to be held in St. Louis. How about that?
Did you influence this at all? I feel like you influenced it there, but that's exciting because honestly, I love St. Louis too. It's a great city. It's a great bourbon city. It's nice of them to be recognized this way and bring bourbon fans and distillers in. That's great.
Really excited about it, coming to my hometown, and I will definitely be there. I didn't go to the one in Kentucky. I was very disappointed at myself in not being there, as I saw all my friends, all the distillers there and things like that. It looked like they were having some fun and getting a lot of awards, and I felt really bad for not being there. And I thought, I'm going to be there next year no matter what. Well, here they're coming to my house, so
you have zero excuses. You have to.
I've got no excuse now when they're in St. Louis. So yes. Yes, and I know that the St. Louis distillers were talking about, hey, do you know the event organizers? You know Steve Akeley? And they're like, no. And they're like, well, you got to know that guy. If you're coming to St. Louis, you got to talk to that guy. So hopefully, I'll touch base with them and be involved there. That'd be really a cool thing. Story number 2, McNew. I assume you follow this on social media. This is a crazy one. The birthday bourbon release at Old Forester. 72 hours and people are lining up chairs and they're camping out. And again, it kind of goes back to the thing when I was talking about Randy being here. Very exciting as bourbon fans they want to do things again. And, they announce a bourbon release and and Old Fo knows they're going to line up, but I don't think they knew that they're going to line up 3 or 4 days before the actual day of the release. So.
Yeah, I kind of thought it was funny, but I know a lot of people were disappointed, but It was funny.
But they handled it the right way because they're in a tough spot. So Old Forester, this has to be unfolding in real time for them. They're watching this and be like, wait a minute, we've got more people out there. We've got days to go to this thing. We got more people out there than there are bottles. This is going to be a problem. There's other businesses there that are like, why are all these people here? And I think they made a good call by calling it early, handing out tickets, telling people to go home or go to your hotel, whatever you're going to do. And we'll see you back here on release day on the 2nd. And they did a great job under what had to be tough circumstances. I commend them for what they did. So
yeah, they absolutely did it right. Because people are messy, people are gross. I can't imagine the mess that street would be. People there 3 or 4 days in a row. Like, it's not a camping site, guys. Like, I know you want your birthday bourbon, but I feel like just Old Fo should do tickets every year. I think it made it easier.
I do. I think that was a good way to do it and get them out of there. And again, there was some terrible conditions too. A lot of rain and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, it was nasty out. And but our friend Rob got one. That was exciting.
He did, yeah. So he's an ABV Network Crew Club member. So Rob got one, which was cool. He took a real chance. He drove from St. Louis after the lines had already started, and I think he got number, I don't know, 159 of 168. He was literally that close.
Wow.
So that would have been the drive of shame. You drive, he drove 4 hours. He spent the night, and then the next day is when they gave out the line tickets. So he was there, he would have been there 24 hours plus the drive, and then have to drive home with nothing. But he just barely made it, which is good for him. So
yeah.
Very cool. Last one, pretty proud of this one. Of course, we started a video division a couple years back. We've released a couple documentaries, and our music director for that is Susie Cousins, a good friend of ours. She's on a lot of the episodes of the Bourbon Daily with us. She is releasing her first ever album, and it's a bourbon themed one. It's called Sounds Like Bourbon. And it can be found anywhere starting tomorrow. And of course, we're recording this on Thursday. As I say tomorrow, I do mean on Friday. So Friday the 3rd, anywhere you get music, if you're an iTunes person or wherever you download, it's going to be there, which is cool. So
exciting. And she previewed some of the songs for us last week, Steve, and it's going to be absolutely beautiful and amazing. I'm so excited for her.
Yeah, she had her band come in on an episode we did of the Bourbon Daily, and they played live for us, and it sounded like a studio release. Because you don't see that on the podcast, you're going to assume we just went ahead and started press play on the record, but no, that was them actually playing live. It sounded that good, so it was cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so very excited for her, and what this means for her, I don't know, but I know she's still working for us. So we got projects, and she's working on those. So it's not like she's hit the big time and leaving us. She's still going to be around and work with us. So
she stops taking your calls in 4 months. You know what?
Yeah, it'll happen, but yeah, she's not there just quite yet. So very cool stuff. All right, so it is now time to talk to our guests. So our first guest serves as president and COO of the Kentucky Bourbon Festival. The festival, of course, as I mentioned, is sold out already, and it's ready to go September 16th to 19th. And I'm sure he's as busy as can be right now. It's not like he's sitting around going, I wonder what I could do. But it's so nice of Randy to be here and talk to us. So ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Mr. Randy Prasse. Randy, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Very excited to have you here. And we're going to find out all about what's going on with the Bourbon Festival and how much you love bourbon and all that stuff. But before we get to that, I want to ask you, you're a Milwaukee guy. So when I think of Milwaukee, I don't necessarily first thing I think of is bourbon. I think of beer. So are you a beer guy or are you a bourbon guy?
Well, and thank you. I'm so glad to be here with you tonight. This show actually just interrupted a long day of playing solitaire. I have nothing else going on.
Yeah, nothing's going on. It's quiet.
I appreciate you making me have to shave and comb my hair and come out because I was just really getting bored here. But no, I mean, absolutely. I mean, Wisconsin's the dairy state. So, of course, I grew up on a dairy farm, actually, but had beer early in my culture. And, the beer, brats, and cheese, that's all something that I embrace. And my waistline, my belt that I have on actually embraces it and helps keep everything together, too. But but I actually, funny thing, though, because I started a number of craft beer festivals as a volunteer and was just doing these in cooperation with local nonprofits and got to be pretty good at it. And I heard mention of Fred being out in Pennsylvania. I want to hear a little bit about that because I actually lived in Gettysburg for 3 years and started a craft beer festival right on the edge of the battlefield at the seminary where the day one battle. And that actually happens to be where the Iron Brigade from Wisconsin fought on day one. So there's all these little connections
there. Yeah.
But so there's a lot of that experience throughout the career that has brought, kind of culminated to what we're doing here with the Bourbon Festival. And, if you plan a backyard wedding or an anniversary party, or I came from Churchill Downs and the Kentucky Derby, it's the same motions, it's the same checklist, it's just different scales on things you have to do. So, but no, we're busy. Two weeks from today, it'll be in full swing. So
2 weeks from today. Okay. As a Wisconsin guy, I don't know if you realize how good you got till you leave. The cheese. I mean, I was at the grocery store. I think I'm going to get some aged cheddar, just because, I enjoy when I go up and visit in Wisconsin. And so I thought, I wonder what I can get. So I like the 23-year-old, the 25-year-old. When I'm up in Wisconsin, I go there. 9-month-old was the oldest cheddar I could find at the grocery store. So it's something special that's up there in Wisconsin, isn't it? It's a neat place.
It is, and I mean, it is. It's a change of latitude, change of attitude, as Jimmy Buffett often sings about. I mean, it literally is a different feeling when of course, I'm driving through Chicago and then I hit Wisconsin. So there's that automatic de-escalation of everything. So that helps kind of contribute to that feeling. But no, it's a pretty special state. And Milwaukee and Louisville have so many things in common. Size of cities and just the good working people. And I've always said Louisville feels more like a Midwestern city than a Southern city. And you go north into Indiana and you get a little bit more of the Southern, the twang, or certainly you go south of Bardstown, but Louisville's in this pocket where you don't really pick it up, except for if I say Wisconsin, people know it. Here, the long eyes, why, there's a little bit of that kind of thing. So, but no, I really do. And there's a lot of similarities, and I love calling both of them home to me. So,
yeah. Now, Randy, I come from a corporate job, and part of the job is we used to plan a big event every year. It was the sales convention, because I was a sales guy, but I was a corporate sales guy. So I trained people out in the field and stuff like that. And we'd have a big convention, about 2,000 people come in for this thing. So it was owners and salespeople and the people that support the salespeople, the coordinators and customer service and all that kind of stuff. And it's such a big undertaking. And literally you have to start so far out in planning. And then there's people whose jobs who are going to be impacted and need to help you out, but they don't care what's happening a year down the road. It's hard to get them motivated. And then when you get close, it's a real pressure packed, atmosphere. And then when it starts, it kind of feels like, it goes by in a second, and you just want things to go smoothly and everybody to have it. You can't enjoy yourself like you'd like to at something like that. Even though you've created all these things that are fun to do, you can't enjoy yourself like you would, because you're ultimately working. And then you get to have a little bit of fun, maybe 90 minutes of euphoria when it's all done with, and you feel like, wow, this is great. Maybe and then the next day it's like, okay, let's start working on the next year. Take us through the mindset of doing this job, because it cannot be easy. And you've done this your whole life.
Yeah, 32 years this year.
Wow.
Started off 12 of those years were as a volunteer. So I always am very careful to make sure I celebrate and thank volunteers, because I don't care how big of an event you have, the volunteers are somewhere in that success. At the Wisconsin State Fair, a lot of paid staff, but we had volunteers that handled our information booth. So if you start thinking about the touch points that volunteers have with the community, with the guests, I mean, it's huge. So first off, if you've ever volunteered to help run an event or a festival, even if it's just helping in the beer garden or doing whatever, thank you. Because if you're not hearing thank you from the people that you're working with and working for, shame on them, because that's really what it is. But I started off, I worked in magazines and newspapers, and our publications were always sponsors of the event. And no one knew anything about festivals and events. And I was a concert photographer in high school and college. So my publisher says, you go to these things all the time. Why don't you go sit and make sure they're spending our money wisely? And I was there for a couple of months. And then the next year I was elected chairman of the festival. And they smelled the fresh meat there. And,
yeah.
I just fell in love with it. I fell in love with all of the prep, the meetings, the planning, the discussions, and then seeing it happen was the reward, and seeing the happy faces. So you talk about the grueling, the hours. It is absolutely. I'm 7 days a week now. When I was at Derby, which runs the first Saturday in May, our work schedule started really in March, when we started building the Derby. And that's, other than Easter Sunday, we work 7 days a week, 16-hour plus days. But when the gates open and you see the people and you see the smiles and you see what you've created being enjoyed by others, I get goosebumps talking about it, because it really is. That's why I do what I do. I want to see those faces, and recharges your battery to get you through another year. And people always ask me, well, what do you do the rest of the year? I want a t-shirt that says, this is what I do the rest of the year. I could be a millionaire on that just from festival coordinators buying that. But, I mean, right now we're 14 days away from the festival being in full swing. We've already set 2022 dates, 2023 dates. I've already got contracts going out through 2024. I've already approved the ads that are running in September, because why promote a festival in September that's already sold out? So we need to make sure those people mark their calendars. So as much as I have to have one foot on this side of the line and still worried about executing what we've created, I have to make sure everybody's also looking at, down the road. And just to make things interesting, we've always been the 30th annual, we've always been every September with nothing in between. So just to keep it interesting, I created and announced a June barbecue challenge event that's going to be in conjunction with National Bourbon Day celebrations, but Kansas City Barbecue Society sanctioned event. So we threw that in the middle now. So we don't have the year. We've now got the year that we have to get things going. And oh, by the way, we have something else we need to create in a brand new venue with all new everything. So, but it's easy for me to do that because this is what I live for. And I actually get depressed the day or two after a festival like this ends. There's just a big letdown. But then you have to clean yourself off a day or two later and get right back into it.
Get
So
yourself up and dust yourself off and jump right back in.
dust
Absolutely.
is my life.
Yep. So, there's always challenges in festival planning. And from the perspective this time of the people who put this on, whether it's the volunteered or the paid representatives, and because we'll talk about safety protocols and things like that for guests in a moment. But for the team dealing with this, what has that been like and dealing with, the unknowns and, you had to, cancel last year. So how do you make sure you're keeping your team motivated and stuff like that in such challenging times?
Oh, and I'd be lying if I didn't say there, I've hit those moments where it's just very frustrating.
Yeah.
All of the knowledge and experience and everything that I know, there was none of that in my head, in the 3-ring binder that's in my head about COVID planning and contingency planning. You always plan for weather, and you never know what Mother Nature is going to throw at you. And I always say, Mother Nature has a way of, in the event business, has a way of making a fool look like a genius or a genius look like a fool. And so you plan and do that. But no, I mean, we've got a very small team. And I mentioned this is the 30th year, but in so many ways, and we can kind of get into those points in a little bit, but it's really a first year festival that just happens to have that 30-year history. And that's the way I've kind of framed it for people. If you've ever seen Men in Black, there's the pen with the strobe light that makes people forget.
Right. Yes.
That's what I've been doing for the distilleries, as well as, people that have been going, and not in a bad way, not in a disrespectful way of what our history was, but it had to be drastically different. And I can, get into it as far as the whys and the hows, but we've got a small team of people that share my vision. I've got a board of directors that shares my vision. They hired me a year and a half ago because there was the why. We have to change the event. This is why we need to change it. You're the how. You're going to get us there and show us how. But I'm also, you notice the title. I'm not stuck on titles, but president. I'm not an executive director. So executive directors typically work for a board. They report to a board. I've been around long enough to know that I didn't want that at this point in my life and career. So I, said, I will be involved with this, but I want to be a voting member of the board. So I do cast a vote, other than, if I goof something up and I don't get a chance to vote on how great a guy I am, but no, but I mean, it's very serious, and it means a lot that we run more now like a corporate board than we did a small town nonprofit. And I think it's really important. And that is felt throughout the planning and the execution, and hopefully what everyone will enjoy in a couple of weeks.
Yeah. The idea of big changes and kind of, you've done this for 30 years, but it's new this year. So tell us a little bit about some of the changes, things that we might expect for those of us that have attended in the past.
Right. Well, I will first begin by saying I'm not someone who wants to change just for the sake of changing. There's the saying about, don't fix it if it ain't broke. Well, I've actually seen the opposite, where you can fix it until it is broken. So, so I came into this with a very pragmatic approach to every single activity and event within the old festival. We call it pressure testing. So the board, pre me coming in, the board did an extensive survey with the distilleries and the consumers who've been attending, and found out that we were kind of missing the mark. As you know, the industry got very sophisticated on us, and the consumer got very sophisticated, and the festival is just kind of lagging behind. So I'm kind of the fast forward button to get us in sync, and in some cases, even maybe a click ahead of the industry. It's our job to make sure that we're showcasing the innovation, and we're showcasing all the things, the knowledge that the distilleries have, but also I want to give them that interaction with the consumer, the bourbon enthusiast. So that was the framework. The motto that we have as a small little planning group is this festival has to be about the whiskey and the people who make it. If it doesn't have to do with whiskey, it's not a part of this event. And I say that again with due respect. The car show, the bouncy houses, the face painting, the funnel cake stands, those were fun. Those are small, those are community festival type components. And we do hope they continue somewhere else, because there is a need for that. But this is about the whiskeys. So using that as the foundation, a couple of major important things have changed in Kentucky, as well as in our thinking. One is that the distilleries, for the first time in our history, are allowed to be on the lawn doing direct samples, pours, neat pours to the consumer. So that sips to lips is absolutely what the distilleries told me they needed. They could no longer be just funding a local community party with bands in a beer garden. This is serious business. There's marketing departments, there's law, attorneys and legal counsels and all of these things. And there's an increased competition for the distillery's attention out there. I mean, when we started, we were the only one. And now you get all these different festivals and things that are trying to feature whiskey. And if we weren't receptive to what they said we needed to be, we stood a chance of losing them. We weren't competing with festivals for the consumer. We're competing with other festivals and events for the distilleries. So I came out very strong. And Fred, you may know this, but I mean, I met with the marketing team. The very first team that I met with was the Sazerac group. It was the Buffalo Trace 1792 and Blanton's were all in the room a year ago. And I laid out what the program was. And they were very close to the vest as far as their reactions. I was trying to read them. But afterwards, they literally stopped and said, you clearly have heard us. You've not just listened to us and nodded your head. You've heard what we said that this event has to be. So it's a 21 plus event. We have 35 distilleries. Over half of the active distilleries in Kentucky will be there, and they're all serving. So it is a 2-block living, breathing bar, 30, 35, 36 different bars. So 21 plus, important. It's fenced in perimeter now with a gate. That started with COVID. It was going to remain a free festival, but you're going to have a ticket just so we can manage how many people were coming and going. But then we spun it like, okay, the county fair is $10. I think we can do $10 and still deliver a very desirable, high value type event for those $10. So that was the other big change, is that we're fenced and we're ticketed. And to your point, we sold out. The VIP packages sold out in a matter of hours. The general admission single day, 2-day, and 3-day packages sold out within a matter of 2 weeks. And so that validated that the consumers, the enthusiasts, liked what we were doing. We have triple the number of distilleries involved. So that checks that box, that they believe now that we're doing what we need to do to align the festival and the consumers with their brands. So that's really kind of the two biggest pieces. The one component from the old festival, if you will, that we kept in is the Bourbon Barrel Relay, the World Championship Barrel Relay.
Oh yeah.
Very popular, obviously popular with the workers in the warehouses and the different distillery teams, but also very popular for the friends and families of the rollers. So that's something that we kept and is very, very much a sacred piece of this festival. And I'm actually trying to get network, ESPNs or any of the different regional sports networks who are starving for content to come and cover this. So again, Wisconsin reference. I grew up watching the World Championship, the lumberjack competitions up in Hayward. So I think that what we do there on the lawn is every bit as impressive and interesting as some of the lumberjack competitions and things that you see. So, but that's really why we changed it, what we've changed. Now there's a lot of little subtle nuances that you'll see, hopefully, that are little reflections of things I've picked up along the 30 years in doing this. But that's really the biggest thing, is the consumer can have that direct interaction with the distillery reps, and the distillery reps and the master distillers can have that engagement. Even if it's for 15, 20 seconds, you get that little bit of engagement before the people move on and go on to the next experience. So we're pretty excited about that.
Yeah. I wish we didn't have to talk about this, but it's just part of the world that we live in today. So safety protocols, what things are being done to ensure that guests have not only a fun experience, but a safe one as well?
Well, and all along, I mean, a year ago, I had done a COVID plan, and I worked with Churchill Downs, and I worked with the International Festivals and Events Association, of which I've been a member of for 20 years, and looked at a bunch of different protocols and best practices. And we came up with one. We submitted to the governor's office, which is what we had to do a year ago, for approval. And then we just literally got to the point where it wasn't responsible for us to produce an event that was encouraging people to gather in groups like that. So that is when we took the educational piece that's still part of this year's festival, but we took that core piece out of last year's live, pivoted to virtual, and we did our YouTube channel, kind of like what you're doing. And we had all of the master distillers available because they weren't traveling. They were grounded because of COVID. So we got that interaction with them to do the virtual, and they were impressed. They went back and talked about how well they were treated and how nice the production was. They walked in expecting Randy with an iPhone doing a Facebook Live, and we came in with 3 cameras, microphones, studio lighting, the whole production, post-production. So that really helped. So we kept all of those protocols from last year. Going into this year, we went on sale in March. We said 50% capacity is what the going approved level is. That's what Derby was running at, 50%. And we sold out. And even when people got a little bit more relaxed and COVID restrictions were kind of being lifted, I said, we're staying at 50%, not only for safety. I didn't have a crystal ball that we'd have a Delta variant, but I wanted the experience to be something different than people standing in line all day. It often is hot. So we wanted to have that. And nobody tests a new business model like we are with this first year of this new model with full capacity. So from a business side, I want to walk before we run, see how the people move around there and see what the experiences are. And, I had to order 9,000 glasses from Scotland, from Glencairn. We had to tell the distilleries well in advance how many ticketed guests we were going to be welcoming, so they could do their magic. It's not like in Wisconsin where they can just brew some more beer and be ready to go. It's a little more time consuming. So now fast forward to today, and this is breaking news. You're the first ones that we're actually talking about. Our board, our board met, and based on feedback that we had from our ticketed guests, we looked at other best practices from other events, and obviously a lot of this is about the distillers. We unanimously decided to go to the negative COVID testing or proof of vaccination at the gate. Last year, when we pulled the live event and went to virtual, every distillery said, thank you for doing that. Number one, you took the pressure off of us having to tell you that we were considering not being involved. And when we did that, we earned a lot of credit and a lot of credibility. So when we came out with that announcement today, we did it before. We had one distillery that was just really nervous, and so we made that decision. So we communicated that, and we're getting that same kind of response, like, thank you. You absolutely do care about our workers, because it's not just about protecting the distilleries and the resources. It is, but it's about the guests. It's about bringing people into the Bardstown community, which is a very small community. And it absolutely had nothing to do with any of the politics. I know you get into the COVID and the restrictions and masks, that tends to be a very spicy type of a topic, but we absolutely did it just to ensure everybody's protection. And it isn't where I wanted to be. This morning, we met with the mayor and said, we're going to mask and temperature check and hand sanitizer. And we were doing all of the things short of doing this. But after the day kind of went through and we started really having interactions with the distilleries, it was something we needed to do, and we needed to do it quickly. So we had time to communicate to not only the ticketed guests, but also all of our partners. So that's where we are. So you're literally hearing it first here. Okay.
That's great. Bourbon fans do love the interaction with their favorite bourbon celebrities. We say it, you hear it all the time. The distillers are rock stars, and and they love opportunity to chat with people that make their favorite brands. So I assume there'll be plenty of those opportunities in the festival.
That's what the whole model was. Once you got through the preliminary 21 plus, it was all about that activation, that direct interaction, the sips to lips. So a little bit of a wrinkle from my craft beer world. One thing that we did really well that the consumers enjoyed and the brewmasters had fun with was timed releases during the day. So at 2:00, head over to XYZ and try this while supplies last. So you get this long line and everybody goes up and it runs out, and people that got it feel cool. The people that didn't get it were like, oh, I got to pay attention to the next one. So we're trying to do some of that with the distilleries to have special limited release type things. We've got a number of them that are going to have the master distillers there during the weekend, limited time, and certainly safety is still one of those issues. But in our VIP area, we've got a bar. And so we're encouraging the master distillers to come and do like bar takeovers, come up and for half an hour, kick our bartender out of the way and sling some cocktails and have some fun. And we'll be promoting that through our ticketed guest list. So it's not something that's going to be out on social media, because we don't need that, because we're full. So we're going to be communicating these things to people to, hey, head over to Buffalo Trace at 2:00, and Harlan Wheatley will be there, and 6 bottles of E.H. Taylor, or whatever happens to be the cool thing. So we're pretty excited about that, and we'll see how it works. It's a first time through, and it's a first time in this format for the distilleries. So even the ones that have been with us for years, it's a whole new setup, and they're actually having to bring their whiskey in with them and be prepared to sample, because for years all they were doing was selling T-shirts and hats. Right. So we actually have whiskey, and each of the big brands are allowed up to 6 different brands. The mid-sized distilleries are allowed 4, and the craft distilleries are allowed 2. So, I mean, you can imagine the combination of things that would be available throughout the weekend from 35 different distilleries. So I'm excited about that as kind of a newcomer to the bourbon world. I'm excited about seeing all this come together. So,
yeah. Another thing I hear that's going to be going on is a auction for some cool items. Is there a couple of those just pick out and tell us about what might be expected in there?
well, it is, and this is an annual tradition, but historically it's been done in a small area that is very limited to the number of people, and it's hard to kind of find. It's a little bit off the beaten path. So this year it's such an important thing. We're putting it in as one of the marquee events. It's right on the lawn. It's in a 40-foot by 40-foot tent that during the day will be our premium education courses. So blending and tastings and samplings and pairings and all those kind of hands-on wet lab kind of things, as they used to call it in high school, will be there. And then we'll turn it over to this auction. We have 45 lots right now. And obviously most of it is whiskey, but we also have Jacob Bromwell, the handmade copper flasks. They've donated a bunch of them to the auction. Glenn Caron donated about a $600 crystal or cut glass decanter with 4 glasses. We've got our 30th anniversary watercolor that local artist Jim Cantrell painted for us for this festival for the print. We're selling that original piece. But yeah, the whiskey is going to be amazing. I think we have 18, so over half of the distilleries that are participating in the festival have given at least 1 bottle. They're all signed by the master distiller or blender or the whiskey maker. I'm kind of excited. I mean, Harlan Wheatley is signing a bunch of things. We've got an old E.H. Taylor rye, I believe, and we've got some Blantons coming in.
Oh, cool.
Bardstown Bourbon Company is working with a number of local distilleries to do the Bardstown collection. So it's all being done collaboratively. It's all the master distillers from the distillery. They got together and kind of came up with their own blend. And so they're bottling that. That's got a retail value of, I think, $1,250 for the 5 bottles. Rabbit Hole just did and I'll jump off here real quick, but Rabbit Hole just did a new Alice in Wonderland.
Oh yeah, I saw that online. Yeah,
six bottle set, very limited. We're the first retail partner to do that. They did one with Fred Minnick as a fundraiser, but then they did with us. So there's a complete set of the 6 bottles that will be going up for that. But I mean, it's some rare and some dusties, but right now, I mean, obviously half the people involved are the craft distilleries, so they're newer and younger to the industry. So we've got some really kind of cool stuff, but there's a couple of the older distilleries that I always ask them to go back deeper into their little archives and vaults and pull out some dusties and some fun things to do. So we're in the process of picking them up right now, so we'll see what all comes out. But all in all, I mean, there's 45 lots. It's for the first time ever, which was something really important to me, is we're having an online component. So we've got a local auctioneer, Bill Menish. Kevin Harnett, who's one of the meteorologists on the NBC affiliate here, is actually the live auctioneer for this, but we're going to be doing it real time live or online. So whether you're at the event and you can't get into the tent or don't want to deal with it because of health concerns, or you're sitting on the coasts, you can play along and bid, and hopefully we'll make some good money out of this thing.
Yeah, that's very cool. You mentioned, you need to get somebody like an ESPN2, somebody covering the barrel relay. And really they need to be there right now, because the practice for all this stuff, the leading up to it, they take it so seriously. And I don't think people necessarily realize what goes into that. They're not just picking hands up that day and be like, okay, you and you. They practice for this thing, don't they?
They have tryouts.
Yeah.
And they actually, a number of them have actually built a scale replica, an exact replica using our plans at the distillery.
That's so cool.
Not even kidding. I mean, Fred, you know that, right? I mean, that's, but no, and it's a really cool human interest story. You're absolutely right, because 90% of the interesting part is the selection and the pride that these people put into this thing. And there's the teams, there's the women's and men's teams, there's individuals, and I mean there's pride there. I mean it's serious business. So it's a fun thing, and we're obviously, with COVID concerns, and a lot of distilleries have had to shuffle their own staffing around, and some people used to do this or on bottling line, and everybody's all hands on deck. So we've been working with them and being very patient as they try to make sure their teams are getting put together and everything. But yes, the practices start next week, so the track's getting built, and come on out.
Yeah. it's a reality TV show. Really, they could easily get 10 episodes out of that. All the personal interest stories and the practices, and then of course the event. And yeah, that would be cool.
And I want my Wisconsin breeding makes me want to go and sing "Roll Out the Barrel" or something. But I'd probably get booed if I did that. But yeah, that's what I want to do.
So just a couple quick fun questions as we wrap up here. How many hours of sleep do you think you'll actually get once we press go and the festival gets started? You're there's 3 nights in there. How many hours of sleep during that time?
I'm going to peel back a little trade secret here for you.
Okay.
I will get probably more / better sleep the Thursday, Friday, Saturday night of the festival than I will the Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday setting it up.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, at Derby, I'd get 4 hours of sleep. My first year, we were there at Oaks, and they made some follow-ups on the admissions. So we were there resetting gates and doing everything until 4 a.m. I drove home. I slept with my feet on the floor because I was afraid if I got into bed, I'd literally sleep and I'd miss the day. But it was literally jump back up and shower and shave real quick and throw on my suit and get back. 2 hours later, I was back there at the track. But no, but usually once you get things up and running and you get through the first day and you realize that the plan that's on paper is working, you see some smiling faces, it helps you kind of sleep. The night before, the fear of the unknown, no matter how much you plan, there's always that little uneasy. So I'm probably going to sleep better during the event than I will the week prior to it. So
okay, that makes sense. So do you get the last question is, do you get to take any time off after this festival, or is it literally back on and starting on the kind of, obviously you do some recaps, and I know that you have to kind of, as things are fresh in everybody's mind, you want to get all that together, but do you then get some time off, or are you just right back at it for 2020?
No, I mean, I like to regroup. I don't think that unless you really, really follow something up, I'd like to think that there's the question of what did we do well and what can we do better? So right. I try to do that download the Wednesday, Thursday while it's still fresh in people's minds. And it helps me then enjoy the time that I will take after that. But no, I like to make sure that, in fact, we actually will do daily meetings at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. We'll do kind of regroup real quick. And is there anything that isn't going well that we can improve for tonight? So rather than waiting until next year, I like to address things and change things on the fly. But as you know, a lot of the things, the long lead things for next year's festival, some of that is just what's our logo going to look like and what's our creative going to feel like, so we can start doing some ads and things. But we'll have to recap with all the distilleries and sponsors, and that'll happen in October. We'll be on sale with next year's tickets, I'm hoping, by the Black Friday, right after Thanksgiving, and be able to capture that and push all of these things that we're doing now 2 weeks earlier. I'd like to have done 2 months earlier, and just we know now a little bit more what the landscape might be next year once we get through a festival. So the planning curve kind of changes a little bit. But no, I absolutely will take time off, and I need to recharge batteries. And there is a level of burnout that happens, and no matter what you do. But with Derby, we'd run Derby on Saturday night, we'd work Sunday, we'd take Monday off. And then we had to be right back Tuesday because Mother's Day was the following Sunday. And that was one of our biggest, events at the track outside of Derby. So I will have the luxury of not having to have that kind of a pressure to turn around, a week later and flip it. But again, if you do what I do and you do what I do, why I do it is because I love it. You never really walk away from it. Good or bad, COVID has shown that I could be in Florida and do 90% of the work that I'm doing here in town, and meetings like this, Zoom meetings and things. So I will have a bigger challenge not getting away and going to another physical city destination. I'll have a bigger issue just shutting down and not having this temptation to keep in touch with everyone. But I can be a lazy oaf too. I can really unplug and shut down. So don't worry about that.
Oh, good. Yeah. I didn't know if maybe we need to start a GoFundMe to get you on a beach somewhere or just away from it for a while, but it sounds like you've got the work-life balance thing figured out. So that's very good to hear.
Well, I fooled you. The life-work balance. Yeah. There is something about that out there, I suppose. Excellent. But I love it. I love Randy, it. So I love it. So thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for being part of this today. And we really appreciate you being here for first episode of season 2, my friend.
I'm going to hang around and maybe mute myself and enjoy my meat pour.
All right, that sounds good. With that, we'll take a quick break. And then when we come back, we're going to talk to Mr. Fred Mozenter. We'll do that in just a few.
Today's show is sponsored by the ABV Network Challenge Coin. The third in our series of a yearly challenge coin is in the shop right now and ready to order. Get yours by heading to abvnetwork.com and selecting Shop from the menu. We are also sponsored by Moonshine University. Moonshine University offers programs to assist individuals in the bourbon industry or simply fans just wanting to step up their knowledge. Whether you're looking for in-person learning in the classrooms of Moonshine University or looking for self-study online, there are options to fit your unique needs. Check them out at moonshineuniversity.com. And we are finally sponsored by the ABV Network's Distiller Summit in Key West, Florida. This four-day event features networking opportunities from January 27th through 30th, 2022. Then there's no better place to be in the world than there, to be in sunny Key West. Get more information on our website at abvnetwork.com.
Right. Yes. McNew, I'm excited about that Key West trip. So we did the count today, and we've got over 50 people, 15 distillers, people that are well known in the world of bourbon, that are going to be there. And of course, lots of our fans, and then people like you and I that are part of the ABV Network team. So very cool.
Yeah, I think this thing is going to get huge in 2022, and it's going to be the place to be every year.
Yeah, I do think that we're early here, and they're with them coming aboard, all these big names. I think that we'll get more and more as we get closer. But the important thing to remember is they've also got 2 other big festivals going on there at that time. So you want to get in and get your tickets and get your place you're staying. If you haven't done so already, I would encourage you to book your hotel and make sure you're locked in. Otherwise, you might decide you want to go in early January or late December, and might not be available. So
just pack a tent, sleep in a tree.
You'll exactly. You'll be fine. You'll figure it out.
you gotta go. Okay, you have to go.
All right. Well, our next guest, a special one here. He did a Buffalo Trace pick, and I can hold it up. He's got his own baseball style card, which I'm very jealous of, and he's got some stats on the back here. Do you know that Fred Mozenter, McNew, has done over 100,000 official tastings in his life? I'm not talking about sitting around the house. I'm talking about things for Buffalo Traces on the tasting panel. Over 100,000 official tastes in the books. That's pretty good.
Impressed, but he did tell us that tasting panel gets to taste every single day. That's not a bad gig, Fred.
He said there's like 60 or 80 at a time when they're doing it. And he's also, this is really cool too, he's a tour guide, and he has done over 6,000 tours for Buffalo Trace. So he's creating bourbon fans. That's pretty cool. Yeah. So very, very neat. So our next guest has a career in the liquor business, working in the state of Pennsylvania before retiring, moving to Kentucky, and going to work at Buffalo Trace as a tour guide. He loves all things bourbon. And if you're a fan of the ABV Network, you'll see him on our events. We get together and do a lot of Zoom tastings and things like that. And it's not uncommon to see Fred there. So ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming our friend, Mr. Fred Mozenter. Hey, Fred, how's it going, buddy?
Thank you so much for inviting me, Steve, for the premiere episode. Thank you.
Yes. So this is a big one. So yes, we appreciate you coming on and being part of this, kicking off season 2 for us. We're really excited about this, and it was fun because we literally started last year with it was our first endeavor into YouTube, and of course we're big time on podcasts and stuff like that. You're talking about our podcast. We got one show that gets over 50,000 downloads a month, and then you go to YouTube, and how many subscribers do we have? We had 0. It's hard to take. It's like, can't we just get everybody that's downloading the podcast to automatically come over? And so right. It takes a while, but they're really coming on board now. It's like you see new subscribers every day, and it was like a slow burn. It started out slow, but now it's kind of picking up some momentum, and I'm really excited about what we got going on with YouTube. So cool stuff. Fred, before we kind of get into your career and all the bourbon stuff, and it even talks about it on your card, you are a big NASCAR fan. So tell us about that passion of being a NASCAR fan, and who's your favorite driver, of course, we want to know too.
Kevin Harvick is my favorite driver.
Kevin Harvick, okay.
And the way I got into it, I was reading the newspaper on a Friday evening in Philadelphia in May of 1979, and I read about the NASCAR race at Dover, Delaware. So I went down to the race, and a car parked next to me, and they got out of the car. They said, "Do you need a ticket?" I said, "Yeah." Well, I got in that seat, and when they started the engines, it was like having a drug injected into your veins.
You were hooked from that point forward.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I've
that's
been
really
going to races since 1979.
wow. So is it kind of a hobby for you where you go around to different cities and different tracks and stuff like that?
Yeah, I've been to Darlington, South Carolina. I was Daytona a couple times, Martinsville, Rockingham, North Carolina, Watkins Glen, New York, Michigan. But basically, right now I go to Bristol exclusively, and they
Bristol,
just
okay.
started racing at Nashville Super Speedway in June, so I went to that one also.
Yeah. So your career, when we start talking about you in the liquor business, it started with the state of Pennsylvania. And
Mhm.
again, it's state controlled. So you were a state employee working in a liquor store, correct?
Right.
Yeah. And what were your jobs in that? Were you a liquor store manager? Were you stocking shelves, or did you progress up to a certain job? Tell us what you did in your time there.
When I first started in the summer of 1974, I think it was. Yeah,
Okay.
1974. I was a
1974.
part-time clerk for like 3 months, and then they started laying off the summer help, and they hired me on full-time. So let's see, for about 2 years, I was I was a clerk in the stores, waiting on customers, stocking shelves, and then I became an assistant manager for a few years, and then a general manager. So I was in charge of stores as a general manager.
Okay.
But I still waited on customers and stocked the shelves because I was the manager of a small store. All the stores I was manager of were small stores.
Yeah. And you recently told me one of the cool things, you think about working for a liquor store, you think it's kind of a non-traditional type of job, but yours was, because you're working for the state, a little bit more traditional. You've even got a pension these days
Yeah,
from the state
yeah,
of Pennsylvania, which
yeah.
is so cool. You work at the liquor store, you got a pension. I love that. So, and when you retired, at some point, when did this love for bourbon start? Was it early on in working for the liquor stores, or did that just evolve over time? How did you become a bourbon fan?
Well, I started drinking Booker's bourbon, and I can't remember exactly where.
Okay.
And there was Jim Beam had a small batch society at one time.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
And Fred Moe came out to one of the stores in the Philadelphia suburb. Oh, Randy, I want to tell you also that I went out to one of the Gettysburg liquor stores and saw Fred one time.
You saw
In
Fred Noah
Gettysburg.
in Gettysburg.
Yeah,
That's
Gettysburg. So I went to see Fred in this one liquor store, and just from then on, it exploded. My love for bourbon exploded, and I started drinking Jim Beam White Label actually, and I grew from there. I can't stand Jim Beam White Label now. I mean, I just don't like any of those younger bourbons like that.
Right. Yeah.
Well,
that's
and Fred will tell stories about how they would fly into these different airports and they get off the plane and nobody is waiting for them. And they had to like get a taxi, and now it's like like a band, like the Beatles coming off in New York.
Yeah.
It's changed a lot in Fred's life.
And then when I met Fred at the first store, I was wearing a NASCAR jacket, and Fred at the time, they were sponsoring one of the cars, so we became fast friends right then and there.
Okay. So yeah, once you get the bourbon bug, and again, it can be a drink that you love, and for some people that's their total bourbon experience, and that's fine. But for others of us, it ends up being a lot more. You want to educate yourself and about everything, about the people of bourbon, the brands, the history, the process. You want to know everything. Then you want to drill it down even further and be like, okay, I know the ingredients, but I want to know, how does the yeast work and all that. So you get into science and things that I wasn't even necessarily good at in school, but you have an interest in it if you're a bourbon fan, which is one of the cool things about bourbon, right? It's limitless what you can get into.
Exactly.
Yeah. And collectibles, do you collect any bourbon stuff? I collect a little bit of if I find something old bourbon, like Old Crow had a lot of cool marketing stuff and in-store signs. If I find something like that, I pick it up every time I see it. So I enjoy going and looking for those things. How about you? You get into that kind of stuff?
Well, I don't go into liquor stores anymore because I never find what I'm looking for. But
if you got to go to like the flea market, do you ever
No.
look for that kind of stuff? No, nothing like that.
No.
Antique stores.
Most of what I have is private barrel selections from different bourbon societies and things like that.
Yeah.
And I drink what I get. I don't collect.
You don't collect. No. You don't want to do that. You don't want to be that person.
No.
So you make the decision when you decided you're going to move to Kentucky. Was it only Buffalo Trace you wanted to work at, or were you just kind of like a free agent and you ended up scoring and landing at Buffalo Trace?
Well, I still am. I'm a Mellow Moments Club member, and in 2008, they had tastings for the Mellow Moments Club members at their Cox's Creek facility.
Yeah.
And they had dinner there, and we tasted right out of the barrel. So that's the reason I came down. It was a month after I retired from the state. And I figured, hey, that sounds like fun. So I came down for that. And while I was here, I went to Wild Turkey to see if they were hiring. And they said, no, we're not hiring.
Yeah.
Jim and Fred No said, you don't want to work here at Jim Beam. So I didn't even try there. And I went to Buffalo Trace to the guard shack there, and he gave me the Sazerac website address. And I went back to Pennsylvania and went online and applied, and they had 2 tour guide positions open. So I retired in September of 2008, went down in October for the Four Roses event. They called me down for an interview November 7th, and the end of November, they called me and told me I got the job.
Okay. What did your wife think of all this?
She was for it, but she's had a lot of time. She's had a lot of time adjusting here, but she just went along with it because she's not a drinker.
Okay, she's not.
She just went along with it.
You got to miss those Philly cheesesteaks, though, right? The Philadelphia guy, you tell me you had to eat those things. Those are the best.
You
right?
better believe you cannot find a Philly cheesesteak outside of Philadelphia. It's not possible.
Exactly. People will be like, "Oh, here's a Philly cheese." No, you need to go to Philadelphia. That's where they're at. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, I do miss them.
Is that what the cheese whiz? Is that the kind that?
Oh yeah, that's it. That's it. Yep.
So who makes the best? I've seen complete television shows over who's the best.
Pat's and Geno's.
Yeah. When you go to Pat's and order it, you order it with or without.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So which one do you prefer? Can you say Pat's or Geno's?
Pat's.
Yeah, me too. That's the one I like. So yeah. Geno's, not it's still not bad. Better than I can get around here. But yeah, I like Pat's better too. If I had to go to one, I'd go to that one. So, and again, you started out, you were a tour guide. What was your training like? Did you have to learn about, I assume, Buffalo Trace history? Did you have to learn how to interact with guests and things like that? Do they have a whole protocol and training program to get you up to speed on all that kind of stuff? And of course, they have specific tours. It's not like it's just like walk the grounds. They have different tours, hard hat tours, life of a barrel tour, a lot of different tours. So I assume you have to learn the various tours too. So how long were you training for this?
Well, they had we got a script. And we don't follow the script exactly, but we kind of use that as a guide. And I shadowed tour guides, and that was my training.
Yeah.
So that's how I got to do the Trace tour, the regular Trace tour. And then as time went along, I went on the other tours. I shadowed the other tours, and I just grew into all of the other tours. And now I do every tour there.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, pretty cool.
That's neat. So another thing that is just unique to you, and I, for some people, I'm sure even at Buffalo Trace and tour guides and things like that, it's a job. It's and that doesn't mean they're not passionate about what they do, but they come in, they do the job and go. You don't just come in and go home. You're on our events at night. You're involved in not only doing our stuff, but other people's stuff. You're in clubs. You're in our club. You're in other clubs and stuff like that. So really, everything bourbon. I know, like the first ticket they sold, I think at the original New Orleans Bourbon Festival, was to you. They announced their ticket sales, and here's Fred Mozenter buys the first ticket. So you're just big into anything bourbon, and is that just you can never learn enough, can you?
No, you can't. I'm always learning new things, and I'm like that with NASCAR too. If I get into something, I get into it. So it's the same way with bourbon. I learn everything I can about it.
Yeah. And you said your bosses at Buffalo Trace actually really love that. They love the fact you're out in the community participating with all these bourbon fans. And really, even though you're just yourself wanting to learn or do the tasting and all that, in actuality, you're representing the company and you're a great ambassador for the company and really the bourbon industry, to be honest with you, Fred.
I'll go to like Wild Turkey bourbon dinners, Four Roses bourbon dinners, and take pictures and post the pictures. They love that when I go out.
Really? They don't even say, hey, that's only Buffalo. You're Buffalo Trace guy. They're cool with that. So you can go to turkey dinners and all. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love the fact they're like that.
And they love when I go to the Bourbon Society meetings and things like that.
such a great industry. Yeah.
Mhm,
Gosh, I
it
love
sure
this.
is.
Yeah. So we talked about the variety of tours. If someone is looking at making a pick, and again, they have a limited amount of time, Fred, they probably only have time for one tour. If you said they had to pick out one, which one do you think you would go on? If you were never been to Buffalo Trace before and could go on one tour, what would be a good tour to go on?
And
If someone's listening to this and has
if
to
they
make a
don't,
decision.
if they don't know much about bourbon and they haven't been to Buffalo Trace, the Trace tour,
Okay.
the basic Trace tour, that's the best for general knowledge.
Yeah. And if you want to get crazy, I did that Life of the Barrel one time just because that was the only one that was open when I went, and I didn't know I'd like it, and I actually loved it. It was really cool. We got to go in the warehouse where they aged Pappy, and you got to see those old barrels sitting there. It was pretty awesome. Yeah. Yep. So Fred, what is your favorite Buffalo Trace product out of that great lineup? And then also, what's your favorite non-Buffalo Trace product?
It's tough. My top favorite is Elmer T. Lee.
Okay.
I have several close seconds. Several close seconds.
Do you have any luck? Boy, Elmer T. Lee's been a tough one. I don't think I got a Elmer T. Lee all year last year. Nothing this year either. It's tough these days.
Yeah. No, I can't find any of those things.
Yeah, it's hard. Oh, it's got to be tough for you. Obviously, you get to taste it, part of tasting panel and all that kind of stuff.
Well,
but,
you're tasting it at 40 proof also, so that's no fun.
That's no fun. Don't give us like it's no fun. Like we're gonna feel bad for you. You're doing okay. You're doing okay. Yeah. So the tasting panel itself, though, is a very cool experience. I would assume being part of that and helping taste single barrels and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Yeah. So we asked your favorite Buffalo Trace. What's your favorite non-Buffalo Trace?
My favorite oh man, that's kind of tough too.
Yeah, because that opens up the rest of the whole industry. So there's a lot there. And I know you're a fan of other distilleries. So what would be the one though?
I'd have to say the Four Roses limited edition small batch, but even the Four Roses single barrel, that would be my favorite non-Buffalo Trace product.
Yeah,
and then New Riff is
accessible. Yeah,
New Riff is a very close second there too.
Yeah, New Riff is doing some good things.
Yeah,
absolutely. Well, Fred, also thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it, my friend.
Hey, it was a pleasure. I always enjoy being on your events.
Thank you very much. Yeah, we have some fun. I think we learned some things. We get to try some great whiskey. So I don't know how you can lose. I feel like I got an easy gig. It's not too bad. Fred, you want to share anything? People want to follow your journey, anything like that, or maybe want to visit your Buffalo Trace. Where can they follow along with what you're doing, social media wise?
Really nowhere. I don't post a lot on social media.
Okay. Yeah. For Buffalo Trace, that you just search Buffalo Trace, you can find it anywhere. Now, unlike you, they're everywhere. So yeah, you want to do that. And of course, the Buffalo Trace website's a great place to go if you're looking at booking tours. Book in advance. That's a smart thing to do, right, Fred?
Not only that, when the reservations are open, they fill up quickly, very quickly. But a lot of those people never show up for their tours. So on any given day, you can come in the morning or early afternoon, and there's always openings on the tours.
So just show up. Just because you see it sold out, still show up. And that's probably an offshoot of the fact they're free. People are invested in anything then. So they're like, I'll just go ahead and book that. You know what? Something better came along. I'm going to do that.
Exactly.
So very cool. Well, thank you, Fred. Let's hear a round of applause for Fred Mozenter. Fred, great job.
Thank you.
And Randy, we want to come back to you and ask you if there's anything that you would like to share, social media wise, website, anything you'd like to share, my friend.
Sure, thank you. We're at KY Bourbon Festival on Instagram and Twitter, and we have the Kentucky Bourbon Festival Facebook page. Our website, which is literally where 95% of our tickets were sold through the e-newsletter sign up, not publicly. So I would recommend going to kybourbonfestival.com and signing up. You get all the insider information. You get the advance notices of tickets going on sale and all the schedule, the little hints and things on how to enjoy the festival to the maximum. So
absolutely. Well, let's hear it for Randy too. Randy, thank you so much for coming out. We appreciate it. We really do.
So I was told that I was going to get a lot of like free bourbon and stuff for coming on the show. Can we talk about that after?
Yes. Let's turn the recorder off and we'll get
I'm here for the whiskey.
Absolutely.
No, but thank you for having me. I had a lot of fun. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All of you. Good to see you.
Yep. McNew, how about you? Where can people find you? They want to follow along with you and what you got going on. Where can they do that?
Yep, I am on Instagram at McNew ABV.
All right. And you've got a show. You might want to plug your show. You have your very own podcast now.
I do have my very own show on the ABV Network channel called Bottle Kills and Last Meals. So if you like some weird stuff like people's last meals before death row, hit me up there.
Yeah, she's into that true crime genre. Very hot. I don't understand why, but yeah, she's doing good with that. So
Has anyone ever requested whiskey as part of their last meal? That's
I looked into this because I'm like, that's what I would get. But
Right.
a lot of state laws do not allow you to have alcohol. Disappointing.
they're probably asking, but they're not giving, I guess. Yeah. That
Yeah,
makes sense. Well,
It's not good
I don't-
anybody's.
I don't really want that pizza or steak and baked potatoes. Before I get,
right.
you slide me a bottle in my
Yeah.
Give me the whole bottle and leave me alone for a couple hours, and I'm gonna be good to go.
That's right. That's right.
All right. Well, for me, I'm an easy guy to find. I'm at Steve Akeley on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook. I've got a website, steveakeley.com. We've also got a company website. That thing's abvnetwork.com. Check it out because everything that we do is out there. We put all of our previous shows, our blogs. We've got our shop out there. So much more. abvnetwork.com. McNew, anything else to say before we get out of here?
Yeah, I would like to remind the audience, please hit that subscribe button for Bourbon Sasquatch on YouTube, where all of our shows will be posted. And when you're watching an episode, please give us a thumbs up and leave some comments and share it. It helps new people find the show, which is very important to us. And next week for episode 2 of season 2, we have Brian Smith of Hard Truth Distilling and Michael Myers of Distillery 291.
All right. Should be a fun show. Until next week, take care, everybody. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.